Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I am your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there? We woke up on this side of the living, y'all. We woke up on this side of the living this morning. And I want to appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let's see, we got some good mornings coming in already. Good, Brian Hoodie, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a longtime supporter. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm back. Had a week off. Had some things I had to do last week, but I'm back. Hopefully everything's coming through with the sound and everything, because I haven't turned this on in a minute. Terrence Collins, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Let me get it together here. I got some information, some good information for y'all this morning. There's a lot of things been going on since I was gone. Yeah, there's a lot of things been going on since I've been gone, so we're gonna jump right into it, man. Because yeah, let's go ahead and start with this. Let's start with what we always start with. Can I vote? www.nass.org. Can I vote? I don't think at this time I really need to keep pushing this, but I'm going to keep pushing it. Because I think everybody understands where we're at right now, the big move that's going on, the big juice that's behind some things that are going on. Edward Allen, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. Vernique Allen, good morning. Appreciate you. But with everything that's going on, all the changes been happening, and we're going to get into all that. But www.nass.org, can I vote? Also, there's a website called Vet the Vote. If you're a veteran, Vet the Vote, go to the website. I don't have it up here. Vet the Vote. Go out there, go on there. If you want to volunteer to work at the polls or whatever, you sign up online. Vet the Vote. It's for all veterans. Go on out there, sign up, get out there, make sure everything is correct out there at the polls when we go on November 5th. Let's just be real about it, all right? Michelle Summerall, good morning. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Edward Allen, push it. Yeah, we're going to push it. All right, I'm sorry. We're going to push to get out there and vote, y'all. www.nass.org. Can I vote? National Association Secretary of State.org. Get out there, do your thing. Now, yeah, it's one of them mornings, y'all. It's one of them mornings. I got to get myself together because I'm ramped up this morning because I haven't been on in a minute for a week, only a week. But, yeah, trying to get my notes together. But in the meantime, in between time, let's go and do this. NASS.org, can I vote? That's what we're talking about. We got to make sure everybody gets out there. Willis Cheney, good morning, my brother. Good morning. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. We got to make sure people are getting out there and doing their due diligence with voting and everything. But I want to start it off with this. There's a lot of concentration right now on the president. And we're going to get into that change and all that in a minute. All right. But what I want to start off with is this. Trent Branch, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. I want to start off with this. The vote is November 5th. And we're all concentrating on the president, vice president, and we're going to get in the Republican National Convention and all that went on because I wasn't on last week. But I think we also need to be aware, we need to let people know that there are 435 seats up for grabs for re-election in the Congress. 435 seats up for grabs this election in the Congress, to include 33 in the Senate. These are all up for grabs. Pay attention to these people that are running for these positions in your state, in your legislature. Also, let's not forget, local elections are going on at the same time. You got attorney generals, judges, school board officials, mayors, governors. All your local officials are coming up for re-election or to be voted in at the same time. So let's just not get concentrating on the president. We got a whole lot of other elections and a lot of other positions that are going to be opening up during this election period. And a lot of the times when there's a presidential election every 4 years, we're so concentrated on the president They would lose focus of the locals, the Congress, the Senate, those that can influence the president and who is the president at the time. I wanted to put that out there first. Now, I watched the Republican National Convention. Don't judge me. Don't judge. I watched it for y'all. But I watched every night, in and out. And what I will tell you, what I learned, Trent Branch, yeah, let's not forget our local elections. Yeah, we can't forget that. Willis Cheney, great starting point. Appreciate you, bro. Republican National Convention. And I watched it every night. I watched Trump's speech. I watched J.D. Vance's speech. I watched all the different people that spoke between Amber Rose, Byron Donalds, the family of Donald Trump, J.D. Vance's wife introduced him, so on and so forth. So I did watch the Republican National Convention. And what I got from watching it, the convention, Edward Allen local, look down the ballot. Yes, sir. What I got from the convention was a lot of nothing. They didn't have solutions. They didn't have plans. They didn't have anything substantial while I was watching this to tell me that I should look at voting for a Republican, whether it be in the Senate, the Congress, or the President of the United States. The Republican National Committee had no substance to anything they were talking about. There was a lot of name calling, which they said they were trying to change after the assassination attempt. They were going to change their way. They were voicing things, this, that. I seen nothing to give me a feeling of voting for any Republican. Now, I consider myself an independent, which I can look at some of the things Republicans do and Democrats. Y'all have heard me talk about this. There's certain things that they do well and certain things they don't. But at the same time, when you watch a convention, in my opinion, when I'm watching a convention, I want to see what you're going to do going forward, not looking back. What are we doing? What are you going to do going forward? And in that, I seen nothing except the same regurgitation of, and this, I'm trying to remember what each night had a theme. Make America wealthy again. Make America great again was the final one. Make America safe again. All these different, make America something again, but nothing to the point of me wanting to say, damn, maybe I should be a Republican, because you know what? They're touching on things that I'm interested in that are going to help me long term. Nothing. And then they went back, as Donald Trump got up there, he had a speech up there, but he also went back to the normal, criticizing, denigrating, talking down, all those type of things that he said he wasn't going to do after he nearly lost his life. His kids said that, he was a changed man. Since he ain't changed nothing. He ain't changed nothing but the patch over his ear every so many days. You know how you had to change the dressing on a wound? Yeah, that's all he changed. Trent Branch, I watched the RNC as well. Need to be informed. Yeah, and I was informed. I was informed that there's no plan. Their biggest plan is Project 2025. Let's just call it what it is. The Republican Party is no longer the Republican Party. The Republican Party now is MAGA, Trump. That's his party. It's not the Republican Party we knew when Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, Bush's daddy, Dick Cheney. It is not the Republican Party we once knew. Think about it. And to be informed means you listen, be aware, but don't be consumed. But then yesterday, Donald Trump did a speech in West Palm Beach on Friday for and it was a Florida summit hosted by conservative group Turning Point Action, which is a very racist-based group. And in his speech yesterday, Trump promised that if he wins in November, he would once again appoint rock-solid conservative judges who will protect religious liberty. But he also went a step further. And he said that if he's elected for a second term, they won't have to vote anymore. If I'm elected to a second term, you won't have to vote anymore. Basically, he told them, I want you to vote this time, but after this, you won't have to vote anymore. This is what he said. After repeating his usual unfounded claims about mail-in voting, Trump launched into an appeal directed at Christian voters. Christians, get out and vote, yelled Trump. Just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians, he added. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed. So good, you're not going to have to vote. Now, what I get from that is the mindset that he and his people already have a way to change what the Constitution and everything we know to be true up to this point to allow him to stay in office no matter what. You won't have to vote anymore, Christians. Oh, his words, not mine. Trent Branch, absolute no plan. Project 2025 is the plan, exactly, that he's trying to distance himself from, but we'll get back to that another time. Edward Allen, I want those that have run for office state their position on Project 2025 on the record. They won't. They won't. They're all running from it. Michelle Lynn Summerall, I heard that. I'm guessing it will be a dictatorship or a kingdom. Exactly. Those were his words that came from his mouth at a speech to a Christian, Turning Point USA Christian gathering or something to that extent. I read that to let you know that everything that is happening right now, everything that is going on, we've seen this writing on the wall, but it has intensified within the last few days, and we all know why. Reggie P. Rowe, good morning, my brother. Appreciate you. And we all know why. For those that may have been living under a rock, Joe Biden decided he's not going to run for re-election. And in that statement that he made where he wasn't going to run for re-election, it was unceremoniously appointed that Kamala Harris would be the next person in line for the Democratic nomination to be run for the Democratic Party. In that, we have seen all the things from when she was running for president before, and then when she became vice president over the last 3.5 years or so, all the attacks that have gone against her before are coming back up again. Lying Kamala, DEI hire Kamala. You know, DEI hire is a new word for the N word. You know, I don't use that word, but that's the new N word. Let's be real. Cat lady, they say she's a cat lady because she ain't got no kids. She has stepchildren, but she doesn't have any kids of her own. They call her a cat lady. That came from Republican vice president nominee J.D. Vance. She's not a natural born citizen. The birther thing coming up again. She's not black. Now, I don't know who started this. That's always something that they throw out there. Normally, that comes from our own community, so I cannot either deny or confirm that it came from us, but it's out there. And brought up the fact that she was dating Willie Brown, San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown back in the day, and that's how she got in, was doing different favors for him, sexual favors. All the things you can think about that they've ever said about Kamala Harris have come to the forefront again because they're scared. They're scared right now about her getting the nomination, who she's going to name as VP, which they have two names. I think it's Shapiro from Pennsylvania and Kelly from Arizona. Kelly was an astronaut. Kelly is Gabby Gifford's husband. You know, the woman that got shot in the head by the guy that's at a rally at one time. That's her husband. I don't want to make it gruesome, but I think that will recall your memory. And then Shapiro, who is Jewish, and they made it a point to bring this out, is the one from Pennsylvania. Those are the two that they say narrowed down to be her vice president pick. I think both would be a good pick. But in my opinion, after doing some reading, and you do your own research if it comes to fruition, do your own research, but I'm leaning towards Kelly more than I am Shapiro. No personal reasons. I just read their bios and everything. You do the same homework that I did. Come to your own conclusions. But it's amazing to me how these attacks are coming at Kamala Harris as a DEI hire, so they say. But also, after Kamala Harris was kind of pushed up into the forefront, where they're saying that they should go to the Democratic National Convention to figure out, have a small primary to see if she is the nominee, make people vote and everything. I'm okay with that. But she's been the vice president for the last 3.5 years. So I think there should be some standing in that. because if something would have happened to Joe Biden, she would be the president. So let's take it along the same lines. However, not a single black voter in a Michigan poll, says that they'll back former President Donald Trump. A statewide survey of 600 Michigan voters conducted for WDIV Detroit News between Monday and Wednesday found zero support for Trump among black voters, while 82.1% of those voters backed Vice President Kamala Harris, and 11.5% backed independent candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's not clear how many black voters were included in the sample, although Newsweek noted that that number would likely be fewer than 100, since black people make up 14% of the state's population. 600 Michigan voters, 82% said they would not vote for Trump. They would vote for Kamala Harris. That's the push that we're seeing right now. That's the push that we're seeing. Other polls have shown Trump's modest gains among black voters evaporated after President Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race and endorsed the vice president, whose parents are immigrants from India and Jamaica. These are the things that are going on, y'all. This is what's going on right now. There's a shift. The balance of power has suddenly started to shift, all because Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, decided that at this point in his life, the questions that have surrounded him, that he decided to step aside from running for president again. Now, mind you, a lot of people want to go back and say, well, when he was elected president, he said he would not run again. However, he did say he was going to run. That's why he was in the position at the time. A lot of people were upset about it, but you have to look at it this way. If you're sitting in that position, and I'm just going to act like I'm Joe Biden. If I'm sitting in that position and I see this person that was in the presidential position before me running again off the same record, and I've been the president for these last 4 years and my record stands much better than his, then I'm probably going to lean towards running again, because I'm looking out for the democracy of this country, not for personal gain. With him stepping down, it was the same thing. He's looking out for the democracy of this country rather than give it up to somebody else. Now, they say he was pressured. Could have been. But we've seen the decline in his health. It's not something we haven't recognized. But at the same time, we have to understand that he didn't do this out of selfishness. He did it selflessly. Some people don't understand that. And that's why they're on this bandwagon. Trump brand Republicans are scared. They have doubts about the VP selection as well. Yeah, J.D. Vance, Hillbilly Elegy was the movie or the book he wrote about his life growing up and everything. And this is something he said, and I digress, but let me say this for a minute. I watched that movie years ago, but I remember his mother was strung out on drugs in this movie in life. This week or last week, he made a statement dealing with the border crisis and stated that the border crisis is the reason why his mother was addicted to drugs. Now, he grew up in the border of Ohio and Kentucky right there, and the border is way down south. But at the time when he was a young man growing up, the border crisis wasn't even in existence as it is today. So for him to make that statement that his mother became addicted to drugs by the illegal drugs coming across the border illegally by what's going on now and put it in comparison, I have a problem with that. And the people who let these people get away with saying those things should be held to account as well, because the people that report on them need to push back more often when they come up with these lies. J.D. Vance is like 40, 50 years old. So that make his mother, if she's still alive, at least 70, 80, give or take a day. But if you notice, when certain people of certain color speak about the drug epidemic, drug thing, it's a big issue with them. But when we were talking about the crack sentences that people were getting for having a little ounce of crack on them and did 30, 40 years in jail, there was no compassion for those folks. But J.D. Vance wants us to have compassion for his mother because she was addicted to drugs because of the choice she chose. But then turn around and blame it on the crisis at the border. I don't make this up. I just give you facts. And I don't do comparisons. I give you facts. But something that jumped out at me this week, and I'm going to put it out there, and I got my own thoughts on this, but I'm going to read it to you before I do that. We were built for this moment. Black women rally around Kamala Harris. On Sunday night, an estimated 90,000 Black women and allies logged on at the same time to support her brand new presidential campaign. Zoom typically maxes out at 1,000 participants, but a female executive at the video conferencing company stepped in to increase the capacity to 40,000, said Amy Allison, who has attended many of the weekly calls organized by the Win with Black Women Network over the years. An organizer said the meeting was streamed to another 50,000 women on other platforms. Divine Nine. Yes, sir. Michelle Hudson. Amen. Yes, yes, yes. So for y'all that have been living on a rock again, last weekend, there was an outpouring of support for Kamala Harris from Black women. They did a Zoom call. 90,000 Black women on this call on Zoom, as well as other social media platforms. They raised, here it is, in further proof of the nice excitement, the group's goal to raise $1 million in 100 days was exceeded in just 3 hours, with more than $1.6 million raised. The moment exists on a continuum of Black women's leadership stretching back generations. That's number one. Black women started. Let's get it out there. Let's put the money out there. Let's get on the Zoom call. Let's do it. And then Monday, I think it was. Let me make sure I got the date right. But the date doesn't matter. It was after the Black women showed what they can do. Black men said, wait a minute now. Hold up. We got something to say too. We got something we want to say. 50,000 Black men raised over $1.3 million for Vice President Kamala Harris on Roland Martin's Black Star Network. In an unprecedented display of unity and determination, over 50,000 Black men gathered on a Zoom call hosted by Roland Martin's Black Star Network, raising over $1.3 million for Vice President Kamala Harris. Harris's presidential campaign. This powerful show of support came just a day, so it was on Monday, just a day after 40,000 Black women, which came out to 90,000, joining a similar Zoom call, generating about $2 million for Harris and spinning a resounding message. The men's call, led by Martin and co-hosted by Bakari Sellers and others, was a powerful statement against former President Donald Trump, who has been twice impeached and convicted. Y'all know all the record. He's a criminal. Let's just call it what it is. And that's Black men. Black women started. Trump Branch is a movement, undeniable. Yes, it is. Black women started it. They kicked it off. They said, hey, let's get in the game. Black men said, hold up, y'all ain't gonna leave us behind now. We got to jump in here and help y'all out a little bit. But then it went a step further. The night white women raised millions for Harris and broke Zoom. Over 164,000 women joined the Zoom call to discuss support, privilege, and allyship as they raised millions for the vice president's campaign. White women answered the call. It was the largest Zoom call in history, with more than 200,000 attendees joined on Thursday night. The goal was to ensure that this group of voters that makes up almost 40% of the electorate doesn't vote for the Republican, which it has historically done in all but 2 presidential elections. In just 90 minutes, the call helped raise $8.5 million for the campaign and energize a crucial segment of voters. Now, you've heard me say on here many, many, many times, you're either an ally or you're a lie. You're either an ally or you're a lie. And I have to say, 164,000 women, white women, on a Zoom call and raised $8.5 million for the VP to become president. That's ally right there. That's that allyship they talking about. But hold up, we ain't done yet. Check this out. White dudes for Harris to hold a call after 160,000 white women joined Karens for Kamala Zoom. They had their little name called Karens for Kamala. But white dudes for Harris is what they're calling themselves. A virtual meeting dubbed White Dudes for Harris plans to hold a call on Monday, tomorrow, to drum up excitement for Vice President Kamala Harris's election bid. Over 10,000 white men from all across the country are expected to join the effort this week and will be on hand to welcome Vice President Harris to the presidential race and pledge to help her get elected, organizers said on a sign-up form for the call. The call comes, after the 164,000 white women, the 50,000 Black men, and the 90,000 Black women. Trent Brand said it best. It's a movement. It's a movement. Now, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a minute. And I understand President Joe Biden is old. I get it. We all going to get there. We all going to get there, hopefully. But how come, even though he was old, he is old, and Kamala Harris was the VP at the time and still is on the ticket, Biden-Harris, we couldn't get this same outpouring of support across the board? I have to ask that question because I understand the motivation and the movement and everything to support VP Harris to be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. But I'm a little confused on why we couldn't get this same support when she was the VP on the ticket with Biden. Now, I understand Biden was the president, but we also lose focus that if he had won again and something happened to him, she would be the president anyway. Now, I'll go out on a limb and say this movement is because they want her to be elected as the president and not by default. I understand that. I'm cool with that. But that balancing act of what we were doing as a community and all across the United States, not just black men, but not black women, white men and white women, were skeptical about putting Joe Biden back in office in spite of the fact that she was his VP. Help me, y'all. It's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope. And I get it, but it's one of those things that make you ask, so what is the difference here? Because either way, she would have been on the ticket, and she was on the ticket. But now the fundraising has catapulted to a whole new level. Now, I think some of the problem, and I'll be honest, some of the problem was the campaign for Biden-Harris as a whole. They were not in the streets doing what they need to do to motivate. They didn't give us a reason who were looking at voting for them or reason to actually be motivated to vote for them. However, now that Kamala Harris looks like she's going to be the presumptive person to be the pick for the Democratic Party, things are clicking, things are moving. People are energized. They stay energized. And the thing is this, if you have a leader that doesn't look motivated, look like he moved a little slow, everybody else move a little slow. The VP, Harris, she got a little zip to her. So I think that's where we're falling in line. Just me. I think it's something we can look at. Will it change it? Because the assistant coach doesn't get the credit. It's head coach, aka president. Understood. I get it. Okay, I get it. I'm just curious. Because you know what? You're right. Because the assistant coach don't get fired before the head coach. You got a point there. I'll ride with that. Edward Allen. Yes, sir. Brian Hoodie, because as VP, she couldn't do too much, but as president, she can do a lot more. That's what I'm asking. That's why I'm asking y'all to chime in. Help me understand. Help the people understand. Michelle Lynn Summerall, that's a great point, because many were against the thought of her stepping in if something happened to Biden. But now the support is great, maybe because Trump and Vance are the double negatives. And that's what, and you put it better than I put it. Thank you very much, Michelle Summerall. Many were against her stepping in to be the president if something happened to Joe Biden. But if you put her on the ticket by herself and waiting to find out who her VP is, it's an explosion. It's an explosion. And as Willis Cheney said, hey, there ain't nobody worried about the assistant coach. They look for the head coach. I get it. But this is good. We're understanding everybody's viewpoint and getting an understanding on how these things work and how we view things. We're all saying the same thing. We're just saying it in a different way. It was about optics for a lot of people. That's where I want to go to. Optics. As I said, if you got somebody that's the leader up there, moving slow and hunched over, and not to say nothing bad about Joe Biden or any of our elders, anything, nothing like that. I'm just telling you, when you see those things, you're more concerned for them than you are motivated by them. You're motivated by who they are and how they became where they are and everything in life. But after a certain point, you want to be motivated to pick it up. So I get it. What Michelle said. Yep. And she said it basically. She said exactly how it needed to be said. So I appreciate y'all for chiming in on that, because that's something I wanted to put out there. I wanted to make sure that, everybody didn't always hear my voice, but I want the different opinions to come in, because right now we're in this pocket. And it's a very influential pocket that we're in right now that is going to either make or break what's going to happen come November. Right now, the motivation's there. The motivation's there. You're going to see all these, things said about her, how she's not this, how she did this, how she. And let me digress for a minute and let me clear something up. I'm sorry. I keep hearing people of color, and I'm going to call y'all out right now. People of color talking about VP Harris. I'm going to call her Vice President Harris. When she was the prosecutor in California. And they keep talking about how she locked up all these African-American men for drug charges and so on and so forth. But I seen something out there, and I wish I would have printed it out, that broke it down exactly what she did. In her time that she was a state prosecutor, she prosecuted 1,456 people. Of those 1,456 people that were prosecuted, only 45 served jail time. And I want to flip it this way as well. She's in a position to do a job, but because the people look like her, you don't want her to do the job. This is no different than us as a community when we see the brother standing on the street corner selling drugs and we don't do something about it, but he's poisoning your own people, your own community, and then we don't say anything about it. What are we doing? We got to get past this of, she prosecuted this many black people compared to that many white people. A prosecutor is there to do a job. You don't compare these other, and I'm going to get into that in a few minutes, but you don't compare these other district attorneys and prosecutors on how many blacks they prosecute on a daily basis. You only want to make it a point when it's the black folks prosecuting the black folks when they have a job to do. This is where my problem comes in with us sometimes. I'm going to say sometimes, not all the time. I love y'all. But sometimes we got to step back for a minute and ask ourselves, why are we so ignorant to the fact of if a person is put in a position to do a job, they're going to do the job, no matter who comes in front. When she mentioned this week that she doesn't, or one other time they brought up that she mentioned that she doesn't think that we should get reparations. Everybody's on that. Well, let's listen to her reasoning why. Because here's the thing, whether we get them under her or not, we still ain't had them up to this point, but you're going to hold it against her? You held it against Barack Obama, but you haven't held it against the other 40-something presidents before them. What are we doing? Every time we take 3 steps forward, y'all want to go 5 steps back because it doesn't fit the narrative that you want at the specific time. It's your job. If you're in charge, there's only certain things you can do no matter what color you are. And the thing is, you sit there and you look at other people who are hiring people that look like them and you have an attitude. But then when you get in a position and you're doing the right thing because there's a right and wrong, then you want to be called all these names by other folks. But at the end of the day, your integrity is what's in question, not what you choose to do just because. I have a problem with them bringing up her record about she prosecuted this many black folks. Let's just talk about she did her job. How about that? And she was good at doing her job, which made her a senator and now the VP and soon to be president. Let's concentrate on that. Let me get off my soapbox for a minute. Edward Allen, ouch. I wasn't trying to hurt nobody this morning. I just had to say what I had to say. Michelle Hudson, crab in the barrel mentality. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Trent Branch, no matter their race, they were criminals who were prosecuted for the crime they committed. Willis Cheney, speak on them, bro. Thank you, bro. Brian Hoodie, she may have prosecuted people, but she also started a program to help them get out on their feet, but they don't talk about that. Yes, she did her job. Thank you for reminding me. In those people that she prosecuted that ended up going to jail, the program she created was for them to go to school, and they came out with associate's degrees while they were incarcerated and became better citizens in this country. But they don't talk about the program she created. They only want to talk about who she locked up. Do your research, people. Do your damn research. And stop hanging on what somebody told you on Fox News or CNN or MSNBC or any of these propaganda sites you want to listen to, and pay attention to the facts. This is where we get wrapped around the axle. We hear something and we run with it. But you don't want nobody to do that about you, but you do it about somebody else. Trent Branch, just like Trump was prosecuted for the crimes he committed, he need to go to jail as well. Ain't nobody talking about that. They got judges up here dropping cases. Why? Because he has the complexion for the protection. But if you recognize and if you recall, every case that went to trial against Donald Trump, other than Smith with the classified documents in January 16th, What color were the prosecutors? They were doing their job, and they were beat up. They were called names, DEI hires, and all this stuff, but they were doing their jobs. And it was held against them for doing their jobs. So I asked this question facetiously, but if Donald Trump was black and those prosecutors who are black were prosecuting him, would you feel the same way? Would you say, oh, they're just doing, she shouldn't be prosecuting him because he's black? This man is a sexual assaulter. He's been convicted on 34 felonies for hiding money for an election. He was on trial for classified documents. He's on trial for January 6th inciting an insurrection. All the cases against him. And there's a black judge in D.C. for the insurrection case. Should they just overlook the fact and say, he's a black man? He shouldn't be charged? Or should they do their job the way they've been hired to do their job? Always remember something we've been told, and all of us have heard this as kids. You got to be 10 times better, simply just because of the way you look in the job that you do. And you will be scrutinized for the job that you do, no matter how well you do it. Let's call it what it is. Michelle Hudson, good morning, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you. Black Trump would have been under the jail. Yes. We know it. History has shown us how the system works. But when a black person is put in a position, we expect them to overlook the faults of our ways just because the person that they may be prosecuting looks like us. Do the crime, do the time. We have always said we want to be held accountable, but we can't pick and choose when we want to be accountable and what we want to be accountable for. Come on. Get out and vote. Get on these calls. Hell, I might get on the white dudes call tomorrow just to hear what they're talking about. You can call in. You can zoom in. Get the link. Zoom in. Listen what they're talking about. I wish I could have been on all the other. I did listen to Roland Martin's, a small part of it. They had a lot of different speakers coming in and talking and everything. But I wish I could have listened to the black women, which I didn't know was happening because I was just getting back in town. The white women, I wish I could have listened on that. But I think I'm going to slide on in there and listen to the white dudes for Harris. See what they got to say. See what they're talking about. See what their agenda is to help people get out the vote. That's what we need to do. Pay attention, get involved, listen to what others are doing. We can always take ideas from people to move on and be able to do what we have to do. Now, Willis Cheney, Trent Branch, already. Yeah, under the jail. Under the jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Go under jail. Under the jail. That's it. That's all we need to know. That's all we need to know. Take that break because I need to calm down a little bit because this next one I really want to talk about, and I want to be serious about this when we talk about it. Yes, listen to Fox News. Yeah, her name is. This is a hard one, y'all. Sonia Massey. I'm not sure. I think it's Macy. It may be Massey. I'm not sure because I've watched coverage, but I can't watch too much of the coverage. I think we've all seen the video of the young lady being shot in the face 3 times by a rogue police officer. Let's just call it what it is, a rogue police officer. But I haven't seen the same movement around this killing, murder, as I did with George Floyd. I don't know if we as a people have become complicit. I don't know if we become immune to these type of things when we see them, but it was a senseless murder by a person, and I'm going to say a person, I'm not going to call him a cop anymore, by a person who should have never worn a badge of any day of his life. If you notice, there's not a lot of outrage as far as the country Black Lives Matter. I haven't heard much from them about this. I haven't heard, all I've heard from is Benjamin Crump and, your normal pundits that talk about it and everything. And I haven't seen a lot on Facebook like we did during George Floyd. And I say that because I understand that at a certain time and a certain point, we become immune to these things happening because it becomes so common that the outrage, we kind of suppress it. We kind of suppress it. And I'll say it, and I believe this wholeheartedly. Every person of color in this country suffers from some sort of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Whether it's you've seen someone killed on TV, whether it's something that happened in your past, no matter what it is, we all suffer from some sort of PTSD in our lives just by being who we are. Just by being who we are and how we look. Edward Allen, having a lot of reporting on this incident. No, there hasn't been a lot of reporting. And that's the part that puzzles me, because this was, to me, and I don't do comparison, I do facts, but this was more extreme than the knee on the neck. More extreme, more straight out. I don't give a damn about who you are. You're a black person. And at this point in my life, I could give a damn about you. Pow, pow, pow. Sounds extreme, sounds raw, but it is what it is. Let's just be honest. We don't expect justice anymore. No, we don't. And I think something that needs to be said with this, and I'm going to get more into this, but I think something that we need to be reminded of consistently is former President Donald Trump has stood up and gave speeches about giving police immunity from prosecution for this type of incident that we're discussing right now. Immunity from prosecution for all police officers across the United States of America. Immunity from prosecution for the senseless killing that we just saw happen to Sonia Massey. Think about that. And not just as a black African American in this country, but any and every American in this country should be in an outrage that he is looking to give immunity to every police officer. And the reason he feels so freely to do that is because the Supreme Court just gave him a basic immunity pass for all the crimes he committed while he was in office. This has nothing to do, when he does this and talks about this, has nothing to do with the betterment of America as a whole. It has to do to pandering to a certain demographic of people that he knows he will get their vote by doing this. Because we all know, most of us know, if you're a person that lives by right and wrong, we all know by giving police officers complete immunity from anything they do of prosecution, you've just given them the right to kill anybody that they feel may be a threat to them because they shouldn't have a badge from the beginning. You might as well just go ahead and back, and rather than calling police officers, if he gets in office and gives them complete immunity, you might as well eliminate the word police officer, state trooper, or any of that, and just call them what it is, slave patrols, because that's what they used to do. Call it what it is. Make America great again. Huh? Sean Grayson was fired from the Sangamon County Sheriff's Office nearly 2 weeks after he shot and killed Massey in her home in Springfield, Illinois. Body camera video showed Grayson declined to render aid as Massey lay dying and discouraged his partner from trying to save her. The other deputy still rendered aid and stayed with Ms. Massey until medical help arrived, a prosecutor wrote in court documents, adding that Grayson, the person that shot her, at no time attempted to render any aid to Ms. Massey. No aid. Trump branch, everything Trump does on to benefit Trump. No question. Exactly. So he shot her 3 times. 3 times in the face. Now, mind you, and I'm trying to find a date, but this police officer, this felon at this point, worked at 6 different police agencies in 4 years. Let go for different reasons. Discharged from the military after 2 years with a discharge where they still, here it says, Grayson received his part-time law enforcement certification on June 5th of 2021, according to the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board. His certification status reads as suspended on the board's website before he worked in law enforcement. Grayson had been a wheeled vehicle mechanic in the Army from May of 2014 to February 2016. Now, I want to stop right there, and I want all my veterans out there listening to ask yourself, from what we know to be true, if you went into the military and you served from May of 2014 to February 26, which is not even a full 2 years, what does that say? They say you couldn't adapt to the military lifestyle, or you did something that wasn't of becoming of a military member. He had no deployments in the Army. And he had no deployments and left the Army in the rank of private first class. The reason listed for his separation is misconduct, parentheses, serious offense. Trent Branch, he's a problem. We know. If you're a veteran who has served in the military, well, if you're a veteran, you serve, let me get my words right. But if you're a veteran, you know someone who didn't even serve a good 2 years of a 4-year commitment that he signed up for and was discharged for misconduct, a serious offense. No way. No way he should have had a gun. No way he should be on the police force. Now, mind you, let me clear something up. I understand people can change who they are, because you don't normally people go in the military, they're like 17, 18, 19 years old. I get that. But you have to ask yourself, at 17, 18, 19 years old, if you can't fulfill a 4-year commitment that you signed up to do, you can't blame it on the military. That says more about you than it does about the military. That's just me. It's just me. But obviously this person was rogue. He shot her because he chose to shoot her, not because he felt threatened, like he tried to say she was going to throw hot water on him and all these different things, all the stories you want to hear. No. Now, this is the part where the water gets muddy. While the disgraced officer claimed that Miss Massey came at him with boiling water, court documents filed by prosecutors characterized her as calm, possibly unwell, and non-aggressive during the interaction. Wilburn said he and Massey's family were not initially told, this is her father now, were not initially told her death was the result of a police shooting. Were not initially told that her death was a result of a police shooting. Trent Branch, he should not have been able to become a member of anyone's law enforcement. Not at all. This is what Mr. Wilburn said. I was never told that it was a deputy-involved shooting. We were under the impression that she was killed by the intruder or some other person from the street, and they just went in there and found her dead body. Later noting that there were even rumored suggestions that his daughter's injuries were self-inflicted. So they first of all didn't say it was a police shoot, that a police officer killed her. They were left with the impression that the intruder that she called the police for and about harmed her or killed her. And then they tried to flip it and make it seem like the wounds that she suffered were self-inflicted. While the disgraced officer claimed Massey came at him with boiling water, we went through that. But with the public release of body cam footage by Illinois State Police on Monday, a clearer picture of Massey's final moments emerged, including the tense verbal exchange in which she tells deputies, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," while complying with their demands. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and I'm going to go ahead and leave this powder over here. I'm going to take these mitts off. I'm going to listen to what you're saying. Didn't even give her an opportunity. She is also heard apologizing to Grayson as he aims his weapon at her, just seconds before he approaches her and follows through on a verbal threat to shoot her in the face. I think she feared for her life, said Wilburn, when asked to explain what his daughter might have meant by her rebuke. There was some premonition that she had. It's just unexplainable. Also inexplicable is why Grayson did not turn on his recording apparatus until after the shooting. The footage was recovered from the other deputy's body cam. Have we become immune to these things where they're not? Now, mind you, I think this didn't just happen. This is just being reported and being put out there. I was looking for the date, but he was fired on July 17th. So he was fired on July 17th, which is nearly 2 weeks after he shot her. So if you back that up, we're talking about the end of May. Beginning of July is when this happened. And we're at July 26th, 27th is when this is all coming to fruition for us to know about it. They were trying to cover that up. Just unacceptable. 2 weeks. And now it's become national news. But the family didn't even know what happened to her when they told them that she was killed. And I'm going to transition here. I mentioned about attorney generals being on the ticket to be voted in coming up in this election in different states. And you really have to pay attention to this because the attorney general is the one that's going to prosecute this. The police officer, former police officer, the rogue police officer. But also, I want you to listen to this real quick. On this show, we've talked about many people who have served long sentences for crimes they didn't commit. And we have this case of a Mr. Christopher Dunn, who has served more than 30 years in prison. For more than 30 years, Christopher Dunn has been incarcerated in Missouri, accused of a murder he insisted he did not commit. Freedom seemed within his grasp when a circuit judge overturned his conviction and ordered for his release on Wednesday, only to be overruled when the state Supreme Court granted the Attorney General's request for a stay. Now, the Attorney General is Andrew Bailey, and he has appealed the release of Mr. Dunn twice. He has appealed the release of Mr. Dunn twice. No reason given. But there's a woman named Sandra Him, who is 64 years old, and she is the longest held wrongly incarcerated woman known in the U.S., had her conviction overturned only to have Bailey, the Attorney General, appeal her release, keeping her behind bars. Ultimately, she was released July 19th after a judge threatened to hold the Attorney General's office in contempt of court. Now, mind you, Ms. Him is a white woman. Mr. Dunn is a black man. But this Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, who was elected into office twice, has overruled or not followed the direction of the court system to release Mr. Dunn and decided to keep him in jail for reasons we don't know. Mr. Dunn is 52 years old. He was 18 when he was accused of fatally shooting Rico Rogers, 15, on the night of May 18th, 1990. There was no physical evidence in the case linking Dunn to the shooting. He was convicted of first-degree murder in a case that heavily relied on two young witnesses who claimed to see the shooting. Those witnesses, who were 12 and 14, later recanted their testimony as adults and say they were coerced by prosecutors and police. The AG should not be fighting the judge's decision. Their job is not to fight to uphold convictions, but to seek justice. That is not what is happening here. The Attorney General is not to fight to uphold convictions, but to seek justice. That is not what is happening here. So when we talk about these situations where people are serving 30, 40, 50 years in jail for crimes they didn't commit, it goes all the way back to the prosecutor, the initial prosecutor, the judge, the jury, the witnesses. And then when it comes to fruition that they didn't do the crime and they don't have the evidence and they were wrongly convicted and everything, now you have attorney generals holding up the release of this person just because. And not just him, but the white woman who's the longest serving person in Missouri, Mrs. Him. Get out and vote. Read the whole list of people running for office. Don't just concentrate on the president. The Congress, the Senate. We got work to do, y'all. Yeah, these Zoom calls are good. You know, the donations are good. All the things we've been doing over the last week and a half, this movement, as Trent Brand said, is great. But let's not get amnesia when we get to the polls. Let's not get amnesia between now and November. Let's not get amnesia because it's not right now. We have to stay up and stay consistent in what we're doing from now until November and after. Because I'll say this, and I'm not trying to put no fear in nobody. There's been people on the Republican Party, political people in positions of governors, mayors, or whatever, in these different states who have said outright, If Donald Trump is not elected president in this election, there will be a civil war. I don't say that to make you get you scared. I'm telling you what they're saying. And we have to be aware that these things are being said and be prepared for anything and everything that may come after the fact of Kamala Harris becoming president of the United States. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go on YouTube. You can go anywhere online and find where these people are saying these things outright with no hesitation, because there's no consequences held against them, because they sit in a position of some political party, in a position over a state or over in the Senate or in the Congress, and nobody bats an eye, because the first thing people think is it won't happen. Are you sure? Are you sure? Be prepared. Prepare yourself. I don't tell you this to make fear in your heart, because we don't deal with fear. We deal with facts. But what I will tell you is prepare yourselves, because these people, these certain people, are so consumed by power, by holding power, that they would do anything and everything to maintain the power that they currently have. And we have to be aware that these things are happening. And as Michelle Hudson said, January 6th happened. And I said it, and I'll say it again. January 6th was a test run. January 6th was a test run. Thank you very much, Trent Branch. Was a dress rehearsal, test run, exercise, whatever you want to call it from our military perspective. It was an exercise to see the best way to go about doing what they want to do to impose their will, not only on us as a people, but on the democracy of this country. And we got to stay aware that these things are going on at this time. I will say it this way, and I may get in trouble for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Donald Trump and his white nationalists that support him are the biggest threat, not only to this country, but to every African-American, Black person, immigrant, person of color in this country. I said it. You can mark the date, July 27, 2024. Him and those white nationalist movements that support him are the biggest threat, not only to this country, but to everyone in this country that has any type of melanin content within their body. And you can write it down and you can let them know that I said it. Not something I made up, not something I had to read. The actions and everything we've seen up to this point lets us know that it's not about this country. When they say make America great again, it has nothing to do with this country and making this country great. It has to do with the fact of make this country what it used to be, with white people in power and only white people in power dictating everything that goes on here to maintain power, to become what they wanted to become, not a country of freedom, democracy, or anything that they always shout about. Nowhere in their vocabulary are those things inclusive of everybody in this United States, whether born or legally here. Mark my word. But don't be consumed with it. Be aware of it. Be aware of it. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I got for today. But y'all keep on, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Kamala Harris. And let me say this. I've seen before I go out of here. I want to say this. The people that I know, Brian Hoodie, Christopher Wray has been warning Congress for years. Yeah, and Congress hasn't done anything, and they're not going to do anything because they think it's a false threat. But it's amazing to me, and I'm digressing here, but it's amazing to me how we, as the United States of America, can sit back and say that we get the best and have the best intelligence of anyone in this world, but will not take the time to recognize that the biggest threat of this United States is not Russia, it's not North Korea, it's none of those countries, it's not Hungary, it's none of those countries you may think that they always talk about because they got nuclear weapons and all that. That's not the threat. That's not the biggest threat. The biggest threat is internally in this country with the white nationalist, white supremacist mindset that nobody in this country matters except people of white skin. And that's what they're fighting for. That's what they're doing. And if we continue to act like it's not happening, not only within our communities, but outside of our communities and the people that are in charge, we're going to see bloodbaths all over this country by those people. Call it what it is. The threat is within. The threat is within. And the problem is we've seen this play out in movies after movies after movies and act like it won't happen for real. And I always tell you, art imitates life. Art imitates life. Just remember that. Now, I forgot what I was going to say because I went off on that one right there. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I'll be back again next week. We'll have some more information for you. But like I said, keep pushing, keep getting out there. Talk to your people. Get them out there to vote when it's time. Have them registered, www.nass.org. Can I vote? Make sure to register the right way and continue to tune in because I'm going to give you the information that you need, not the information, the propaganda. I'm going to give it to you straight, raw, and uncut. That's the way I see it. That's the way I've always been. And that's the way I'm going to continue giving it to you. This is called Speak On It for the simple fact we're going to speak on what's wrong, but we also going to highlight what's right. And right now, the right is Kamala Harris becoming the president with the nomination and everything that they got to go through the process. And what we need to make sure is we pay attention to all those undercurrent things that are going on. And make sure you tune into the Olympics this week for the next 16 days and watch the men's basketball team bring home gold. I'm more interested in the women bringing home gold, but I'm supporting all the United States athletes out there in Paris this week. I'm going to get off here. Great show, Michelle Summerall. Appreciate that. Michelle Hudson, stay blessed all. Trent Branch, outstanding show. Thanks, my brother. No, thank y'all for tuning in. Edward Lopez Sr., hey, my brother, great info. I appreciate that. Simone Biles, my bag. I forgot about Simone. You know, that's a stalwart. We know she's going to do her thing. But Simone Biles as well. But we're going to support them all. Sha'Carri Richardson, that's my ace in the hole right there. I appreciate y'all. As I always say before I sign off, let me get off here. Love yourself. Love one another. Oh, man, I lost everything I had on here. Let me get my words right, y'all. P-Row, appreciate you, bro. I'm all over the place right now. Lord have mercy. Why I keep going on? There we go. As I always say before I sign off, love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week, and I'll holler. Peace.